The story follows a vampire named Sunwu, who wakes up in 21st century and after meeting with a poor girl, he falls deeply in love with her. Backstory. In the past, Sunwu and his human partner, Hae-sun, were being chased by vampire hunters. In a desperate attempt to escape, Sunwu used his powers to fly, but he was shot mid-air and fell. Hae-sun urged him to run since the hunters were after him. However, when an arrow was aimed at Hae-sun, Sunwu went berserk, unleashing his vampire fury. Hae-sun calmed him down by hugging him, but one of the hunters injured Hae-sun, leading to her tragic death. Years later, Sunwu lives among humans, hiding his true identity and sharing a home with his vampire friends, Lee and Park. Though admired for his charm, Sunwu is haunted by memories of Hae-sun and desperately wishes to become human to experience love again. To help him, God sends an ancient talking cat named Mr. Ko, who reveals a way to turn human. Sunwu must sleep in a coffin for 100 years without interruption. Although his friends doubt the method, Sunwu is determined. Before sealing himself away, he entrusts his mansion to his loyal butler, Ju, who promises that his descendants will care for it. Sunwu also keeps a mirror with him to check if he has turned human upon waking. 100 years later, Ju's descendant, Inhe, is struggling in life. She works as a school nurse and lives in a rented apartment. One day, she helps a bullied student, leading to a confrontation with the student's angry mother. Later, her landlord sells the property without warning, leaving Inhe homeless and broke. She attempts to file a complaint against the landlord who disappeared after taking an advance payment from her, only to discover that he is a seasoned con artist, with scamming people being his well-established business. Her attempts to get a loan fail, leaving her feeling hopeless. Just when things seem their worst, Inhe receives a mysterious call and learns she has inherited Sunwu's mansion from her late father. Little does she know, the mansion holds secrets, and Sunwu, the vampire-turned-human hopeful, is about to reawaken. Desperate for a place to stay, Inhe decides to move into the mansion she inherited, despite being terrified by the eerie rumors surrounding it. As she explores the massive, mysterious house, she ventures into the basement, where she finds a coffin in the center of the room. Curiosity gets the better of her, and she opens the coffin, only to discover a man lying inside. The man, Sunwu, suddenly wakes up and crawls out, scaring Inhe. At first, Sunwu is overjoyed, believing he has finally completed his 100 years of sleep and become human. Grateful, he thanks Inhe for taking care of the mansion. However, Inhe, clueless about his claims, angrily demands he leave, calling it her house. As Sunwu begins to sense a lingering hunger for human blood and notices his blurry reflection in a mirror, he realizes he woke up a day too early. He's no longer a full vampire but hasn't fully turned human either. He's stuck in between. Furious at Inhe for disturbing his ritual, he attempts to bite her to exact revenge. However, Inhe bites down on his neck instead, sending a surge of intense pain through him. He gasps, then collapses to the floor, unable to stand. Panicking, Inhe checks on him and finds his heart isn't beating. Unaware of his vampiric nature, she assumes he's dying and rushes him to a nearby hospital. At the hospital, the doctors work tirelessly but are unable to detect any vital signs. They declare Sunwu dead, leaving Inhe devastated. However, the scent of blood in the hospital revives Sunwu, who regains consciousness. He controls his bloodlust but remains furious with Inhe. Despite his anger, he leaves the hospital to return to the mansion. Feeling guilty for her role in what she thinks nearly killed him, Inhe pays the hospital bills with her hard-earned money, using her credit card. Since Korea has changed drastically in the past 100 years, Sunwu struggles to find his way back to the mansion. Inhe, feeling frustrated and overwhelmed, refuses to help him any further, leaving him on his own. Sunwu wanders around the city, confused by the modern world. He spots a stray cat that looks like Mr. Ko and starts to follow it, hoping for guidance. However, he quickly realizes it's not Mr. Ko. Eventually, he meets two kind women who help him with directions. He finally arrives at the mansion and plans to sleep for one more day in the coffin to complete the ritual. But when he reaches the basement, he finds the coffin has turned to ashes, making it impossible to continue. When Inhe returns, she's shocked to see Sunwu back in the mansion. She insists that he leave immediately, claiming the house belongs to her. Sunwu tries to explain that the mansion is his and was entrusted to her great-great-grandfather, but Inhe refuses to believe him or his claim of being a vampire. Frustrated, Sunwu attempts to prove his story, but none of his vampire powers work. He becomes confused when he notices his reflection in Inhe's eyes, something he's never seen before. Startled and annoyed, Inhe kicks him out of the mansion. While wandering the streets again, Searching for Mr. Ko, Sunwu spots Inhe. Seeing his pitiful state, she offers him some noodles. Having never tasted food before, Sunwu finds the noodles incredibly delicious due to his half-human state. He eats too much and, strangely, becomes drunk. Angrily, he blames Inhe for interrupting his 100-year ritual. Inhe is shocked by his bizarre reaction, realizing something about him isn't normal. When Sunwu wakes up later, he finds Inhe has already left. On his way back to the mansion, he finally encounters Mr. Ko, who reveals himself. Sunwu is relieved to see Mr. Ko. Mr. Ko becomes disappointed to learn that Sunwu has failed to become fully human. When Mr. Ko hears that a woman opened the coffin one day early, he is surprised, explaining that an ordinary person shouldn't have been able to open it so easily. The next morning, Inhe visits her old apartment to collect her belongings before the building is demolished. There, she meets Dusik, an old friend from college who is now the new owner. When Dusik learns about her financial struggles, he offers to help, but Inhe, determined to stay independent, politely refuses. On her way back home, Inhe runs into the property owner who scammed her and ran off with her deposit. Realizing he's been caught, the man tries to escape, and Inhe chases after him. Meanwhile, Sunwu suddenly feels a sharp pain in his neck, right where Inhe had accidentally bitten him before. His instincts tell him she's in danger. To protect her, Sunwu drinks the bottle of blood Mr. Ko gave him, regaining his vampire's strength. With his powers restored, he takes to the sky to find her. Inhe corners the fraudster in a dark alley, but he ambushes her. Just as she's about to be harmed, Sunwu appears and uses his superhuman strength to bend a steel pipe, scaring the man away and saving Inhe. She is completely shocked, realizing that Sunwu really is a vampire. Before she can properly thank him, she rushes off to catch the scammer and turn him in to the police. Sunwu finds Inhe's wallet on the ground and takes it home with him. Still puzzled about the pain in his neck, he wanders into a mall, where he impulsively buys a bunch of new clothes, a limited edition phone, and earbuds, using Inhe's credit card to pay for everything. Unaware of the trouble he's about to cause, Sunwu heads back to the mansion, completely oblivious to how furious Inhe will be when she finds out. When Inhe discovers that Sunwu went on a shopping spree using her credit card, she becomes furious and deeply upset. In her frustration, she jokingly demands that he bite her and end her misery. However, Sunwu reassures her, promising that he has plenty of money and will share it with her. Sunwu heads to the basement to retrieve the gold he hid under his coffin 100 years ago, only to find the box completely empty. Though he tries to explain what happened, Inhe already suspected this outcome. Determined to recover some money, she decides to sell the clothes Sunwu bought online. They quickly find a buyer for one of the expensive coats, and the next morning, Sunwu goes to meet them. To his surprise, the buyer turns out to be Lee, his old vampire friend. Sunwu shares his situation, and together they visit Park's restaurant to ask for a loan. However, both Lee and Park are struggling financially and can't help. Meanwhile, Inhe is packing her belongings at her old apartment when her friend Dusik shows up. Learning she's moving, he offers her a ride to the mansion. When they arrive, Dusik is confused by Sunwu's presence, and Inhe quickly lies, claiming Sunwu is the caretaker. Inside the mansion, Sunwu returns the small amount of money he earned from selling the coat, but he's still deeply in debt. Inhe insists he sign a confession promising to repay her within 6 months. To make that possible, Lee suggests Sunwu get a job and helps him create a fake ID. Sunwu manages to land a job but gets fired on the first day after an accident with a careless biker causes him to spill a load of milk bottles. Exhausted and dejected, he returns home to find Inhe cleaning the mansion. Since he still needs to repay her, she suggests he help with the cleaning in exchange for reducing his debt. As the two clean the house together, they start to bond. Taking a break, Sunwu opens up to Inhe about the mansion's history. He explains that it was originally a small hideout he shared with his lover. After her death, he transformed it into the grand mansion they had always dreamed of, making it a place full of memories and sentimental value for him. One evening, while Sunwu is sitting on the rooftop, his bite mark begins to burn again, signaling that Inhe's life might be in danger. Alarmed, he rushes back inside the mansion and sees a chandelier about to fall on her. Acting quickly, he saves her just in time. However, noticing blood on her lips, his vampire instincts take over, and he impulsively kisses her to taste the blood. Inhe is left in shock but becomes furious when she realizes he kissed her just to drink her blood. Guilt-ridden, Sunwu meets his vampire friends and confesses that drinking Inhe's blood reminded him of his first love, Hae-sun. Their old friend, Rose, is overjoyed to see Sunwu after a century but saddened to learn he failed to become human. She gives him a bag of blood to sustain him. Returning home, Sunwu tries to explain himself to Inhe, insisting the kiss was a mistake and that he has no romantic feelings for her. Inhe, still furious, refuses to listen. The next morning, Sunwu visits Park's restaurant and notices Inhe with her students. Intrigued, he takes a job delivering a food order to a rude teacher who orders him to throw out the trash. While doing so, the recycling attendant teaches him how to sort waste properly. Determined to stay near Inhe, Sunwu takes a job as a janitor at her school. When he goes to empty the trash in her classroom, she is shocked and demands he quit immediately. Sunwu refuses, saying he needs to work to pay off his debt to her. That night, Inhe goes on a date with Dusik at his restaurant. Sunwu returns home and finds Mr. Ko waiting for him. After learning about Sunwu's bond with Inhe, Mr. Ko suggests that Sunwu make Inhe fall in love with him and then drink her blood to finally become human. Later, Dusik walks Inhe home and gifts her pepper spray for self-defense. Sunwu watches them from the rooftop, feeling conflicted. The next morning, Sunwu notices students sneaking out from the school backyard. Unbeknownst to him, they had left burning cigarettes, causing a fire to break out. The principal accuses Sunwu of starting the fire after students falsely claim they saw him smoking. Inhe arrives just in time, dragging the guilty student, Hyang, and proving Sunwu's innocence with CCTV footage. Sunwu is touched by her kindness, which reminds him of Hae-sun. When he shares his tragic love story with her, Inhe becomes uncomfortable. Convinced that Inhe might be Hae-sun reincarnated, Sunwu's behavior begins to unsettle her. She firmly insists he stop stalking her and stay away. Heartbroken, Sunwu struggles with the idea that the woman he's waited for centuries doesn't remember or love him anymore. Park advises him to focus on drinking Inhe's blood to achieve his goal of becoming human. The next day, rumors about Sunwu and Inhe dating spread around the school, making her life difficult. When two students give Sunwu some snacks, he tries to gift them to Inhe, hoping to win her over. However, this only makes her angrier, and she warns him to stay away, frustrated by the gossip and his persistent presence in her life. Sunwu begins waiting outside the mansion for Inhe every day, hoping to win her over, but this only irritates her, leading her to call the cops. Frustrated, Sunwu asks her to watch a movie with him. Initially, she refuses, but when he teases her about being afraid to fall for him, she reluctantly agrees. The next morning, Sunwu dresses in trendy 21st century clothes to impress her. However, instead of falling for him, Inhe snores throughout the movie, leaving him disappointed. The next day, the school principal fires Inhe for standing up for Sunwu. When Sunwu learns about this, he tries to console her, but Inhe insists that she doesn't blame him. She says she defended him because it was the right thing to do. Feeling down, Inhe goes to Dusik's bar and orders an expensive wine to cope with her troubles. The staff, under Dusik's instructions, lets her drink for free. On her way home, she stumbles, and Dusik, watching from a distance, steps in to help her. Back at the mansion, a drunk Inhe continues drinking, irritating Sunwu. The next morning, he finds her burning with a fever. Worried, he tries an old remedy to treat her, unaware of modern medicine. Luckily, Dusik arrives with medicine he had anticipated she might need. Sunwu gives the medicine to her and claims to have prepared it himself. Inhe drinks the medicine and after some time she gets well and meets with Sunwu downstairs, and discovers that he didn't really prepare the medicine himself. Despite this, she appreciates his care. When she gets a call from Dusik, who is worried about her, she meets him at a cafe, where he suggests she move to a safer place, claiming the mansion isn't safe for her. However, Inhe declines, explaining she has personal reasons to stay in the mansion. The next day, while exploring the mansion, she discovers a sketch of Sunwu's former lover, Hae-sun, in the basement. When Sunwu catches her, he takes the sketch away. Curious, Inhe asks if he would fall in love with her if she were truly Hae-sun's reincarnation. Sunwu harshly dismisses the idea, saying she neither looks nor acts like Hae-sun. Hurt by his bluntness, Inhe becomes furious, forcing Sunwu to apologize. Suddenly she becomes curious as Sunwu should be working at the school, and learns Sunwu spilled water on the evil principal and quit his job at the school. Now both of them are jobless. Inhe struggles to find work but faces rejection due to the principal's influence and her lack of confidence. Dusik offers her a solution: turn her large mansion into a guest house. He suggests becoming her business partner and offers to help with the renovation. When Inhe discusses the idea with Sunwu, he initially refuses. However, Inhe cleverly convinces him by suggesting that if the mansion becomes a hotspot again, Hae-sun's reincarnation might visit the place. She also mentions Do-sik's willingness to help for free. Sunwu grows curious about Do-sik's motives. His vampire friend Rose suggests Do-sik might be in love with Inhe, which is why he's so eager to help without wanting anything in return. Realizing this, Sunwu devises a plan. If Inhe falls in love with Do-sik, her cold blood might turn warm, making it ideal for him to drink and become human. The next morning, Inhe informs Do-sik she's ready to turn the mansion into a guest house, making him overjoyed. Do-sik immediately assembles a team to start renovating the place, marking the beginning of their collaboration. Sunwu, unsure of Do-sik's intentions for Inhe, assigns Lee to spy on him. Lee follows Do-sik to a cafe, taking pictures discreetly. However, Lee's actions catch the attention of fellow vampire Manhawi, who questions his shady behavior. Lee avoids answering and informs him that Sunwu has returned to scare him. The next day, Inhe receives a call from Do-sik, who asks her to meet someone interested in investing in her mansion. At the restaurant, Inhe meets Do-sik's friend, Haewon, who bears an uncanny resemblance to Sunwoo's former lover, Haesun. Haewon expresses her deep interest in the mansion, saying it feels strangely familiar, as if it's calling her. Inhe finds Haewon's face familiar but struggles to recall where she might have seen her before. The next day, Do-sik goes to visit the mansion, and Inhe gives him a tour of the mansion as they plan to renovate it. As Inhe goes to make a tea for Do-sik, Sunwu sits with him. Do-sik becomes curious about his identity and asks his relationship with Inhe. Sunwu claims to have ancestral ties with Inhe and nothing more, but he rather worried about Do-sik, and if he has feelings for Inhe, Do-sik blatantly reveals that he genuinely cares about Inhe and wants to protect her at all cost. At night, their weird neighbors show up outside the mansion, claiming that they must patrol the area with them to keep it a safe place for everyone. Sunwu and Inhe ventures the area together, and upon their return, Inhe meets with Haewon standing outside the mansion. Meanwhile, Sunwu becomes shocked to see Haesun's reincarnation and quickly give her a hug, but strangely, Haewon doesn't feel frightened by him. She also finds Sunwu quite attractive, but she gets confused when he acts like they know each other, because she has never seen him before. This makes Sunwu gravely upset as he realizes that the woman who he has waited for centuries doesn't even remember him at all, but Inhe, worried about him, tries to explain that it's normal for people to forget their previous life, and if the destiny desires, Haewon will fall for him again. The next day, noticing Sunwu's sadness, Inhe offers him blood to lift his spirits. She suggests inviting Haewon to the mansion, but Sunwu now starts to feel like letting go of Haewon as she's now a successful rich woman who doesn't even remember him. But Inhe insists Sunwu should start as friends with her and see what happens. Sunwu later confides in Mr. Ko, who advises him not to force Haewon into loving him as everything depends on their destiny. Mr. Ko also insists Sunwu focus on getting Inhe to fall in love so he can drink her blood and become human. The next morning, seeing Inhe stressed over planning the guest house, Sunwu asks Do-sik to help her. Do-sik eagerly invites her to shop for furniture. Meanwhile, Lee and Park investigate the mansion's basement, searching for clues about their stolen treasure. They find a cat hair, suspecting Mr. Ko, but remain unsure. While they celebrate this discovery, Inhe returns and is shocked to find Sunwu hosting his vampire friends without her permission. Furious, she sends them out. Elsewhere, Haewon spends time with her friend Manhawi, unaware he is a vampire. When Manhawi hugs her, she feels nothing compared to the connection she experienced with Sunwu's hug. Sunwu convinces Inhe to call Haewon and invite her back to the mansion. Before the meeting, Inhe warns Sunwu to stay composed and act normal. She reminds him not to touch any food, as it will intoxicate him due to his vampire physiology. The next morning, Sunwu prepares to meet Haewon. Inhe allows him to look into her eyes to check his reflection, a rare moment of trust between them. As Haewon and Do-sik arrive, Sunwu greets Haewon with a bouquet of flowers, her favorite from her past life. During the mansion tour, Sunwu discreetly tries to see his reflection in Haewon's eyes but is shocked to find he cannot. At lunch, Haewon notices Sunwu avoiding the food and wine. She teasingly offers him a piece of shrimp. Despite Inhe's protests, Sunwu takes a bite. To his surprise, the shrimp tastes incredible, and he impulsively devours more, quickly becoming drunk due to his vampire physiology. Inhe drags the intoxicated Sunwu outside, where she punches him to snap him out of it. Embarrassed, Sunwu apologizes for losing control. As they return, Sunwu notices Haewon in danger. Using his superhuman speed, he saves her while Inhe distracts Do-sik. However, as Sunwu holds Haewon, he experiences blurry vision and collapses, alarming both Haewon and Do-sik. Do-sik later reflects on the incident, recalling the unnatural speed Sunwu exhibited. Although confused, he can't shake the memory. Meanwhile, at Park's restaurant, Lee confronts Mr. Ko about the stolen treasure. Mr. Ko admits to visiting the basement but claims it was only to check on Sunwu, not to steal anything. Sunwu, regaining some strength, buys ox blood. On his way home, he receives a call from Haewon, who wants to thank him with a gift for saving her life. Inhe also learns of Haewon's call, surprised at her growing interest in Sunwu. She informs Sunwu that Dusik has arranged temporary accommodations for them during the mansion's renovation. However, Sunwu chooses to stay with his vampire friends, encouraging Inhe to spend more time with Dusik. Haewon, while preparing for her date with Sunwu, receives a call from vampire Manhawi, inviting her for a drive. She refuses, revealing she has plans with someone she met at the mansion. At the art gallery, Sunwu impresses Haewon with his knowledge of art and reveals painting as a hidden talent. However, he again checks her eyes for his reflection and feels disheartened when he finds none. Unbeknownst to them, Manhawi stalks the couple and discovers that Haewon's date is his old enemy, Sunwu. Meanwhile, Inhe moves into the apartment arranged by Dusik. At dinner in an upscale restaurant, Dusik confesses his long-held feelings for her, sharing how much he cherishes their reunion. Inhe, caught off guard, gently tells him that while she values his feelings, her priority is the guesthouse project for now. The next day, as Sunwu and Inhe meet outside the mansion, a delivery arrives for Sunwu. It's a brand new car and a flower painting from Haewon, a token of her gratitude and admiration. The renovation of the mansion is finally complete. To celebrate, Sunwu goes out to distribute rice cakes to the community. However, he unexpectedly runs into Manhawi, the vampire. Manhawi is furious, accusing Sunwu of once again taking Haesun away from him, just as he did 400 years ago when he saved her. Sunwu advises Manhawi to change his ways and walks away. But Manhawi, consumed by anger, attempts to run him over with his car. Using his vampire strength, Sunwu stops the vehicle with his bare hands. What he doesn't realize is that Dusik's assistant, who was keeping an eye on him, captures the entire incident on his dashcam. The assistant quickly reports back to Dusik and hands over the footage, revealing that Sunwu is not human. Meanwhile, a mysterious woman arrives at the mansion as their first guest. Back at the mansion, Sunwu meets Mr. Ko, who warns him that his life is in danger because he is half human and half vampire. Mr. Ko insists that Sunwu must drink Inhe's blood, filled with her love, to survive, otherwise, he will die soon. Saddened by this revelation, Sunwu returns to the mansion, lost in thought. The next morning, after introducing the new guest to Sunwu, Inhe notices he seems quiet and upset. When she asks if something is wrong, he doesn't reveal the reason for his sadness. Later, Haewon visits the guesthouse to check on things. She chats with Inhe and asks several questions about Sunwu. When Sunwu returns from the convenience store, he finds Haewon at the guesthouse. As he offers to take her home, they stop by a garden on the way. There, Haewon opens up, confessing that she feels a strange sense of comfort around Sunwu, as if fate is drawing them together. Touched by her words, Sunwu hugs her and promises to reunite with her once he has completed his unfinished task. Haewon feels puzzled by Sunwu's promise to reunite with her, as they were never together in the first place. Driven by curiosity, she asks Manhawi to investigate Sunwu thoroughly, promising him a handsome reward. That evening, another mysterious figure arrives at the guesthouse to rent a room. At first glance, he seems like a criminal, but his friendly demeanor and love for cooking quickly put everyone at ease. He shares stories about his daughter, who lives abroad, making him seem more approachable. Later that night, as Sunwu and Inhe patrol the area, Manhawi sneaks into the mansion's basement. While rummaging around, he discovers a sketch of Inhe. Meanwhile, Dusik suffers a sudden cardiac arrest while admiring a gift he received from Inhe. He is rushed to the hospital. During his recovery, Dusik reveals a secret family vampire book to his assistant. The book details a cure for his generational disease, drinking the blood of someone who is half human and half vampire, someone like Sunwu. Elsewhere, Sunwu confronts Inhe, explaining that he needs to drink her blood to become fully human. However, before doing so, she must genuinely fall in love with someone, as only blood filled with love will work. The concept overwhelms Inhe, and she refuses, unwilling to risk her life for him at that moment. Heartbroken by her rejection, Sunwu retreats to the rooftop, where Mr. Ko finds him. Sunwu confesses his despair, explaining how Inhe couldn't understand his request and walked away. Meanwhile, Manhawi returns to Haewon and hands her the sketch he found. Looking at it leaves her shocked. It feels like she's staring at an image of herself from centuries ago. Her curiosity about Sunwu and his past deepens, but Monhawi demands payment before divulging any more information. The next morning, Haewon meets with Sunwu and offers her blood, likening it to a simple donation. However, she is unsure how to fill her blood with love. Their conversation is interrupted by a call from Do-sik's assistant, informing her about Do-sik's condition. Rushing to the hospital, Do-sik, not wanting to worry her, lies about his condition, assuring her he's perfectly fine. But Inhe remains concerned, sensing there's more to the story than he's letting on. Back at the mansion, while watering the plants, Sunwu runs into Haewon. She expresses her concern that he never calls her, as if he doesn't miss her at all. As they go inside for a chat, Haewon curiously asks about the basement and insists on seeing it. Unaware of her true intentions, Sunwu agrees to let her explore the space. Inside, Haewon is struck by how ancient the basement feels, as if time has stopped there. She comments on how lonely it must be in such a vast, empty place. Sunwu admits that it feels like the perfect spot to wait for the woman he lost long ago. When Haewon asks who she was, he mentions Haesun. Curious, Haewon asks why their relationship ended. Sunwu reveals that Haesun died long ago because of his mistake. Haewon confesses that she feels an unusual connection to both the mansion and Sunwu. The way he looks at her and speaks makes her feel drawn to him. Before they can delve deeper into their connection, Inhe interrupts them and they leave the basement. As Haewon leaves the mansion, Inhe questions Sunwu's decision to let her into the basement, suspecting he might have revealed her past life. Sunwu reassures her that it's pointless to tell Haewon about her past when she remembers nothing. He also laments that his failure to become human makes everything more difficult. Later, Sunwu meets with his friends, including Rose. Rose advises him that in life, everything is a matter of give and take. She suggests that if Sunwu wants Inhe's blood full of love, he must offer her something she deeply values, something she can't refuse. Meanwhile, Inhe feels conflicted and saddened. She struggles with her inability to give Sunwu her blood full of love, knowing how much he needs it. Though she doesn't know that poor Sunwu is about to die soon without her blood. To watch part 2, please comment below.